This lesson is entitled Points, Lines, and Planes. It's the first lesson in our geometry textbook, even though this says topic 2. We're first going to talk about the undefined terms, point, line, and plane. Let's start with those. The point, by definition, is an exact location in space. A point could be represented by just a dot where two lines intersect. It could be, you could think of it as the tip of a pen. When you name a point, it must be written using a capital letter, a capital printed letter. So you would write capital A, okay, must be capital printed letter. The line is our next undefined term. A line is, we call these undefined terms because they are represented by examples. Let's write it out in a representation. An object with no thickness. That extends indefinitely in two directions. If you're not familiar with indefinitely, that means forever. So it goes forever in two directions, two opposite directions. And we know that it looks like something straight. Keep in mind, in geometry, a straight line, there's no such thing as a crooked line. It's always straight. So it's not a line if it's not straight. A line has an infinite number of points because it goes on forever and ever. Each of those points would be impossible to name, but if we put a point on a line, we name it. Points are named with capital letters. So if I name this one A, I could name this one X. I could name this one Y. Those are all capital printed letters. So if I'm going to name the line that I just drew, you must use two of those points. Two of those points. For example, I could call this line A, X, and that would have to have a line above it with arrows on each end because it goes on forever. I could have chosen X, Y. It has to have the line above it with the arrows. Okay. Sometimes they could choose to label a line with a lowercase cursive letter, such as an L. In that case, you can write L as the name of that line, but you must write it in cursive. It is not a point, it is a name of a line. So there are two options. You may use two capital printed letters with a line above it with two arrows, or you can use a lowercase cursive letter. A line segment is a piece of a line. And I know that you all learned this in junior school. However, the writing of each of these is crucial, that it be correct or you're not speaking correct geometry. Line segment is a piece of a line consisting of two endpoints. And all points in between. If you're going to draw that, you would draw a line, but instead of putting arrows on the end, you would put endpoints. Now, these are points, so we'll name them. You may choose in your example. I'm going to use Q and R. So to write a segment QR, I will write a capital Q and a capital R printed because it's 2 points. It is a segment, not a line, so I need to write a segment above. And it will have 2 endpoints. It is fine for you to leave it without the arrows. You do not have to put the points on the ends. It also does not matter if you write K and, R and then Q. Either way, that's how you write the line segment. A ray. A ray is a piece of a line. Consisting of one endpoint. And it continues. I'm going to put forever in one direction. So to represent that, again, we would have an endpoint, and it would go on forever in one direction. And there's going to be another point in here somewhere. I'm going to use the letters C and D. This is very important that you understand when you write array, you must write the end point first. So you would write C and then D. You would write the ray above it with the arrow, and you have to have the end point side with the point underneath it. So because the point where it begins is C, C must come first. You could not write DC like you did with the segment or with a line. Just to clarify that, there's another example. If I had a line and I make it have the arrow over here and the end point here, and this is N and this is M. To write this ray, I must write N, then M, and write the ray this way. Even though on your paper the ray goes from right to left, you write it like this, from end point through to where the arrow is. Just to make sure, because this is often missed. What if I have a line that contains several points? I'm going to call them R, S, and T. To write a ray SR, you need to understand that is S to R. Okay? If I were to write ray RT, that would include from R forever that way. It's different pieces of the line depending on what you write as your endpoints. Okay, back to our notes page. Opposite rays. Opposite rays are two rays sharing the same endpoint. And continue. Forever in both directions, or in opposite directions. So to draw this, you could draw a line. You could put 3 points on it. X, Y, and Z. The opposite rays would be Y, Z, and YX. Now plane, the point, the line, and the plane are our three undefined terms, meaning they just are defined by an example of something. So plane would be a flat surface, so to speak. That extends in all directions. Indefinitely. When we draw this, we draw kind of a strange little parallelogram type thing. We make sure to have 3 points somewhere on there that are not all in the same line. You need to label them. I'll go with A, B, and C. Or down in the corner, sometimes we use a cursive capital letter, like R. So to name a plane, you would write 3 points. So you can choose any order. We have plane BCA, all capital points. Or you write plane R with a capital cursive. Collinear. Now, please notice the word line is right there in the middle of collinear. Collinear means points that lie on the same line. So if I draw a line and I have X, Y, and Z, X, Y, and Z are collinear. Non-collinear. Obviously, it is the opposite of that, or the negation of that. Points that do not lie on the same line. So, M, N, and W are non-collinear. Obviously, because W is not on line MN. And now, following in the same pattern, coplanar. Surely you can see planar. Now it's spelled a little different. They put an A there instead of PLANE, but if it'll help remember it, that this collinear has line in the middle, coplane has the plane in the middle, coplanar. That helps a little, I think. So, coplanar, points that lie on the same plane. So if I were to draw my funny looking plane here, parallelogram-ish thing, and I have a Q, I have an R, and I have an S. Okay, all of these points are on the same plane, so I could say Q, R, and S are coplanar. And then non-coplanar points that do not lie on the same plane. So if I were to draw a plane, and I got some points on here, M, N, O, and then I have a point somewhere not on that plane, I could definitely say that M, N, O, and A are non-coplanar. All of these terms are explained and have examples for in your textbook. And that's Chapter 1, Lesson 1.